Most preppers have a blind spot. They spend thousands of dollars on food storage, generators, water filters, medical supplies, and gear. But a $1,500 car repair, a spike in insurance, or a few weeks of reduced income would throw their household into crisis, and they're not nearly as prepared as they think they are. Financial preparedness is one of the most overlooked parts of preparedness. In this video, I'm not going to give you the same financial advice you hear everywhere else. This is not another lecture about budgeting, clipping coupons, or saving a little money here and there. Instead, I'm going to show you practical actions that you can start implementing today to make your household more financially resilient over the next 30 days. We'll identify where rising costs can hurt you the most, where your household is financially exposed, and the specific steps that you can take to build financial margin before the next surprise expense, price spike, or economic shock hits. Get the free city prepping brief and stay one step ahead of the events shaping our future. Each week, I share the risk I'm watching and the practical steps you can take now to prepare. Sign up for free at cityprepping.com/CPB or use the link below. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel, we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, before we go any further, let me just point out that I'm not a financial advisor. I'm simply sharing the preparedness mindset I use for my household finances. Here's why this matters. Your financial situation is part of your preparedness, and preparedness is not just what sits on your shelf. It is whether your household can absorb a hit if your car breaks down, fuel spikes, insurance jumps, groceries keep climbing, hours get cut at work, or another medical bill shows up. Does your household have enough margin to breathe? And when there is no margin, every problem becomes an emergency. A modest repair goes on a credit card. A higher grocery bill eats into the money that you had set aside for something else. A utility spike forces you to start moving money around just to keep up. And once that starts compounding, you can find yourself making decisions under pressure that you probably would have never made if you'd had just a little more breathing room. And that's why your financial margin is a prep. We don't need 10 charts to show what people are feeling right now. The cost of running a household has gone up, and for many of us, the cushion has gotten thinner. So when the next price shock inevitably hits, whether it's food, fuel, insurance, utilities, or another unexpected bill, the goal is to have enough breathing room that it does not immediately turn into a crisis. And that can be hard to accomplish these days, but I'm going to show you how it can be done. I'm also going to tell you all of this from a personal place. Back in 2008, my wife and I were expecting our first child, and that season forced us to get really serious about money. We had debt to deal with, expenses to cut, and decisions in front of us that were not fun. So we got aggressive. We cut deeply, paid off debt, said no to things that we wanted, and made changes that were uncomfortable. And it was hard, but those choices, they gave our household more options later. And that helped us get into a better position, save toward a down payment on a house, and gain a little more control at a time when life was changing fast. Now, let me acknowledge the fact that the economy today is different from what it was back in 2008, just under 20 years ago. And I know a lot of people are facing pressures now that were not as heavy back then. The cost of housing, groceries, insurance, utilities, and medical care has continued to rise, while many households have struggled to keep their income growing at the same pace, especially younger families trying to get started. So I'm not saying that we did it so you can too. And I think too many people dismiss the problems we're facing today with that. But that misses the point. The point is that the principle still matters. You do the best you can with the reality in front of you, and that sometimes means making hard choices for a season so your household has more options later. I was raised around hardworking people. My dad was one of the hardest working men I've ever personally known. My granddad came from that same world. Work was not something they complained about. It was just something you did when the household needed it. And I still believe in that. At the same time, I know this is not just a matter of telling people to work harder. Many people are already working hard. Many households are tired. Some people are taking care of kids, aging parents, medical issues, long commutes, unstable work schedules, and rising costs that never really seem to let up. So I'm not here to promote a hustle culture as a long-term solution. I've been there and I have done that. And it got me through a season, but it is not sustainable long-term. It can grind you down, and that is not life. But if debt is crushing your household, or if you don't have any margin at all, there may be a season where you have to get aggressive. And that may mean selling things you don't need, picking up temporary side work, restarting an old skill, learning something new, studying for certification, fixing something for people, doing a side hustle again, working a trade, repairing equipment, tutoring, doing weekend work, or finding some practical way to increase your earning capacity. And that's not hustle culture. That is positioning your household so the next shock does not hit as hard. And again, I'm saying that with sympathy. I know people are squeezed. I know this is frustrating, but doing nothing is still a decision, and it's usually a decision that leaves you with the fewest options later. The first thing I would encourage you to do is not to panic. Start with visibility. Most people, they hear the word budget and immediately they shut down. They think of spreadsheets, shame, arguments, or some unrealistic plan that falls apart by the second week. So I want to frame this a little differently. Build a household pressure map. Pull the latest 90 days of spending. You can use bank statements, a spreadsheet, an app, a notebook, or whatever system works for you. And the tool does not matter as much as the visibility. Then group your spending into categories that create pressure in your household. Things like food, fuel, housing, utilities, insurance, debt, medical costs, subscriptions, household supplies, and discretionary spending. The goal is not to shame or blame. The goal is to see where the pressure is coming from, because you cannot build margin if you can't see it. And this is where many households get stuck. They know they're under pressure, but they do not know exactly where that pressure is coming from. When the money runs out before the end of the month and the credit card balances keep rising, it can feel like the problem is everywhere. But when you pull the last 90 days and put the numbers in front of you, the pattern usually becomes a lot clearer. You may find that one category is doing most of the damage, or you may see that several smaller pressures are stacking up at the same time. Either way, visibility gives you a starting point. And once you have that, I want you to separate two things: waste and exposure. Waste is money leaving your household without giving much value back. And that could be eating out, unused subscriptions, impulse purchases, duplicate services, convenience spending, bank fees, late fees, or small habits that do not seem like much until you start adding them up over 90 days. Waste, it does matter, and I would encourage you to cut it. But waste is not the whole problem. Exposure is different. Exposure is any necessary cost that can quickly hurt your household when prices rise. And that's why this is bigger than canceling a few unused subscriptions. That may help, and it is worth doing, but it does not show up where your household is most vulnerable. The bigger question is which unavoidable expenses would create the most pressure if they jumped again, because that is where your financial preparedness needs to start. That is where financial preparedness becomes more useful than generic budgeting advice. If your food bill is exposed to price increase, then pantry meals, bulk staples, rotating what you store, and cooking more at home are not just money-saving habits. They are preparedness. If your household is exposed to fuel prices, then combining trips, carpooling when possible, maintaining your vehicle, adjusting errands, and calculating the real cost of your commute, it becomes preparedness. If your household is exposed to debt, then paying it down is preparedness. If your household is exposed to insurance increases, then shopping policies, carefully adjusting coverage, increasing deductibles only where appropriate, and challenging recurring bills constitutes preparedness. The goal is to reduce the places where your household can be hurt quickly. So let me give you 3 simple calculations I would start with. The first one is fuel. Pull your last 3 months of fuel spending. Let's say one month was $260, and the next was $310, and the next was $290. That gives you an average of about $287 a month. Now, ask a simple question. What happens if fuel rises by 15%? That adds roughly $43 a month. What happens if it rises by 25%? Now you're adding almost $72 a month. And by itself, that does not destroy a household, but that is the point. It is rarely one thing. If fuel goes up while groceries go up, insurance goes up, utilities go up, and debt payments stay the same, that $43 or $72 is now competing with everything else. And that is how pressure builds. The point of this calculation is not to predict the exact price of gas. We already know it goes up, will go up in the future, and is slow to ever come back down if it ever does. The point is to see how exposed your household is to rising transportation costs. The second calculation you should do is food. And this is one of the fastest areas where many households can create margin because we often pay for convenience without realizing how much it costs. Look at what one takeout meal, drive-through meal, or convenience meal costs your household. If one meal out costs $45 and you replace that once a week with a pantry base meal that costs $10 or $12, that may save around $30 a week. And that is $120 a month, and over 90 days, that's around $360. The point is not to just save money, it is to make your pantry part of your normal life, so you are using what you store, getting comfortable with shelf-stable ingredients, and building a system that helps when prices rise. That is why this works so well. It lowers household pressure while building real preparedness. If food is one of your biggest pressure points, I'll point you to a recent video that we just released at the end of this one on replacing meals and saving money with pantry-based cooking. Now, the third calculation is debt drag, because debt is not just a number. It is a constant pressure that adds to new pressures. High interest debt is one of the fastest ways yesterday's emergencies keep living inside today's budget. A car repair, medical bill, grocery run, or household expense may have gone on a card because there was no other choice. And I'm not here to beat anyone up over that. Many people have been there. But once that debt is there, interest keeps pulling from your future paychecks. If you put a $300 expense on a credit card at 19% interest and only make a $25 minimum payment, 4 months later, you have already paid about $100, but still owe $209. At a $25 monthly payment on a $300 balance at 19%, the debt would be paid off in about 13 months, with the final total paid out of about $329, assuming no new charges, no new emergencies, and a standard monthly interest calculation. Now repeat that a few times across normal household emergencies, and debt starts limiting your options before the next crisis even arrives. If you're carrying high-interest consumer debt, one of the best preparedness moves you can make is to get aggressive about reducing it. List what you owe, know the minimum payments and interest rates, and choose a method that you can actually stick with. An approach I used was to attack the smallest balance first for a quick win. Seeing that first debt disappear, it gave me a huge emotional boost, and that momentum helped keep me moving forward. The next question becomes, where do you find extra money to accelerate that process? If that means selling unused items, cutting deeply for a season, taking temporary side work, or saying no to things you normally say yes to, that may be the season that you're in. Debt is a weight, and every extra dollar that you put toward it now can give your household more options later. After you map pressure, separate waste from exposure, and run the calculations we just covered, I would focus on this next group of 4 major areas, creating margin where possible, but I would not try to kill them all at once. I would start with food margin because it is one of the most practical places to make progress, and it connects directly to preparedness. Meal prep, pantry meals, bulk staples, rice, beans, oats, pasta, canned goods, spices, soups, stews, and simple one-pot meals can lower your grocery bill while also building a deeper pantry. And if you have any ability to grow food, even on a small scale, that can help as well. Now, I'm not saying every household can replace their grocery bill with a garden. Most cannot. But herbs, greens, tomatoes, squash, potatoes, or a few high-producing plants can still add resilience. And the goal is not perfection. The goal is less dependence on expensive convenience. Now, the second area is debt margin, because debt affects everything else. Every dollar going to interest is a dollar that cannot go toward food storage, savings, emergency repairs, medical needs, tools, training, water storage, or paying down the next bill. So, stop adding new consumer debt where possible. List what you owe, pick your method, sell what you do not need, use extra income for a season if you have to, and start reducing the pressure. Now, the third area is bill margin, because some bills, they just sit there for years because we forget to challenge them. Insurance, phone bills, internet, utilities, subscriptions, memberships, service contracts, and bank fees, they can all creep up over time. Many companies will bring you in with an introductory rate, and then a year or two later, the bill is much higher than it was when you signed up. Internet and cable television services are a great example. Many people sign up at one price and then look back later and realize it has nearly doubled. You may not be able to fix all of those bills, but if you can change one phone plan, renegotiate one service, cancel one unused subscription, shop one insurance policy, or eliminate one fee, that is instant margin. The fourth area is income capacity, and this one admittedly is a little uncomfortable, but we need to say it. If cutting expenses is not enough, then you have to ask whether there is a realistic way to increase what your household can bring in. That might mean restarting an old skill, making temporary side work, learning a practical trade, improving a useful service, or rebuilding a capability that you let go of when life got busy. The economy is changing, and even as we get older, we have to keep adapting. And that does not mean reinventing your whole life. It means taking one practical step that gives your household more options, because preparedness is not just about having stuff. Preparedness is capability, and capability compounds. Once you find even a small amount of margin, use what I call the first margin rule. Move money before the household absorbs it. Every payday, set something aside before it disappears into the normal flow of bills, groceries, gas, and unexpected needs. The amount, it may be small at first, maybe it's only a few dollars, but the habit matters because money left undefined usually gets claimed by something. At the end of the month, look at what you were able to protect and decide where it gives your household the most strength. Maybe it goes toward high interest debt, maybe it builds food margin in your pantry, or maybe it supports another area of preparedness that has been sitting exposed for too long. Possibly you want it to grow for another month or more. Do not try to rebuild your entire financial life in one weekend. That's how people burn out. Give yourself 30 days to get the numbers in front of you, identify the biggest pressure points, and make 1 or 2 practical changes that reduce the strain. Maybe that means cutting an unused service, replacing 1 meal a week, calling on a bill, paying extra on a small debt, or moving a little money into a separate buffer. The goal, it's not to fix everything in a month. The goal is to prove that your household can start building margin. To make this as simple as possible for you, I put together a simple household pressure map and a 30-day household margin plan. You can download it from the link in the pinned comment below this video, so you can walk through this without having to build it from scratch. We provide real actionable worksheets like that from time to time, and the best way to avoid missing any of this is to make sure that you're subscribed to the City Prepping Brief. You have to view it through your financial situation as another prep. It's not as important as water, food, or shelter. Sure, it's not about getting rich or being the world's newest trillionaire. It is not about having everything figured out. And it's not about pretending the economy is easy. It's about having enough breathing room to stay calm, make better decisions, and recover faster when life hits it at its hardest. That is what financial margin does. It gives you a little more room to respond before a problem turns into a crisis. So, if you feel behind right now, do not hear this as shame or blame. It's hard not to feel behind or under the gun right now. Hear this as a starting point. Every dollar you protect, every bill you reduce, every debt payment you make, and every meal you learn to build from your pantry is just one more step towards stability before the next shock forces decisions on you. These are the simplest first steps that you can take. I would encourage you to see this plan through for at least 90 days to reap the benefits. And that's the hardest part, and it's up to you. If food is one of your biggest pressure points, watch this next video because I'm going to walk you through how replacing just a few meals with pantry-based meals can create a real savings while also building a deeper pantry. And if you want the broader picture for preparing for economic instability, I will also link my video on surviving an economic collapse. You don't have to fix the whole economy, you just have to make your household a little more resilient, one decision at a time. As always, stay safe out there.